Well, I've been doing a series on Paul's letter to Ephesians, and mostly I've been in the Central Festival Mall in Chiang Mai, Thailand. This video is coming to you from an airport, the International Airport in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I'm awaiting a flight to go to Malaysia, and I will return back to Chiang Mai on the same day. This is to satisfy the visa requirements. I will get 30 more days by leaving the country and then coming back. So I'm in the airport terminal gate awaiting my flight, and we're going to take a look at Paul's letter to Ephesians. We are in chapter 3. And we are headed down to verse number 18. Now this is a prayer that the apostle has for the Ephesians. And he had just prayed that they would be strengthened in the inner man. So that the love of God and faith will be deeply rooted in them. Okay? So now we're ready for verse 18. That they, the saints at Ephesus, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth, length, depth, and height, to know the love of Christ, which passes knowledge, that you might be filled with the fullness of God. So what the apostle is trying to say is you need to see how incredible the love of God is for the world. It might be like saying you need to go out to the Grand Canyon in the United States and behold with your own eyes just how incredible it is, called the Grand Canyon. Unless you go and see for yourself, you won't really know what it's like to see something of this nature. So Paul will use the dimensions, the breadth, the length, the depth, and the height. It might be like saying, you need to know what it's like to be in the Atlantic Ocean. So start swimming and see if you can swim every inch of the Atlantic Ocean. In other words, you can't really get it unless you start to try to get it. Just how vast the Atlantic Ocean is. So Paul wants them to comprehend, to get it into their thinking, that God's love is superlative. Now I like to say to my wife, you are better than the best. And she replies, that's incorrect English. because the best is already the highest. And I will say, yes, you are better than the best. You're the best of the best. Do you really understand just how phenomenal God's love is in this world? I don't. But Paul is saying, I want you to get a glimpse of it. Just a tiny glimpse of this incredible love that God has for His people. So he tacks onto that the specific, the love of Christ, which passeth knowledge. And it reminds me of the passage in Philippians where Paul talks to us about the peace of God, how it surpasses understanding. And it's like a tower that towers above everything. As I was being driven to the airport here, I drove past the control tower that will control the flights that come into the airport and the flights that leave the airport. There's a tower, and that is so they can visually see things if they need to. Now, most of the time, everything is done electronically. But any airport, whether it's a large international airport or a small airport, you have some type of tower that towers above the landing fields or the takeoff fields or the runways. That is so they can visually see what's happening with their eyes. Again, most of it's done with instruments, but it's the concept of the tower that goes above all things. And you now see radio towers. They usually call them cell phone towers. But trust me, there's more than cell phone equipment there that tower above. And they are sending out signals and receiving signals. So this knowledge, if you get even a glimpse of it, it goes above any knowledge you may have, because it's so phenomenal, it's so awesome, it's so great. Now, Paul's prayer is that they may have the fullness of God. They may have the fulfillment with God. In other words, a life that is God satisfied. A life that is being lived for God, under the power of God, in the plan of God, and for God, not for self. Now, we're living in selfish times. We're living in selfie times where everybody wants to get their cell phone and take a selfie. So, it is to be for the fullness of God in your life, the fulfillment that God can give a life, if that life is willing to let Him be totally in charge and have a plan for the person's life. So once again, we've been in a prayer, and the prayer has been for God's love to be revealed to the Ephesians. And remember, primarily he's talking to Gentiles, so they know very little of the history of the love that God had for Abraham and his descendants and that nation that was called Israel. So once again, I'm at the gate, getting ready to board my flight to leave Thailand and then to return on the same day to require visa, to meet visa requirements. Thank you for watching. End of video.